They're sitting round a sugary-legged table against the wall halfway down the room. Across from her, Aldo's surveying the crowd, nervously drumming his fingers on the tabletop. Like a lot of frontmen and women she's played with, he always gets a bit twitchy before a gig, but he seems more wound up than usual tonight. When they were putting the set list together earlier, he was very deliberate about what songs should go where in their half-hour slot, and during soundcheck, he was pickier than usual about the levels, stopping their run-through several times to get the guy at the mixing desk to bring the guitar up, get more low-end on the vocals, a bit less on the monitors. It's good to see him so motivated. Aldo can be hit and miss sometimes in his on-stage delivery, especially if there isn't much in the way of an audience. It seems like his new circumstances are the source of his focus tonight, and while she feels for her frontman, it can only be a good thing for the band. She hasn't seen Aldo look this hungry since they started out. Placing her rubber drum pad on the table in front of her and getting her sticks out, Luce runs through her warm-up exercises, going through her rudiments. She finishes her pre-show ritual by bending and flexing the muscles and tendons in her hands, wrists and ankles. She does this before every gig and every rehearsal, religiously so, and with far more devotion than she'd ever felt as a child during the complex rituals of Mass. "That dude at the bar," Aldo says. "I've seen him before." Glad of the distraction, she looks over her shoulder and sees the tall guy watching the band on stage. He looks bored. Dressed all in black, with wavy dark hair falling around his shoulders. At first glance he could be taken for another goth follower of Shattered Twilight. On closer inspection, his smart leather jacket, tailored button-down shirt and trousers, and high-shine shoes set him apart. On the bar at his elbow, there's an expensive-looking camera next to a whiskey tumbler. He's very good-looking. His long hair and fine sculpted features thrown into sharp relief by the dim candlelight of the basement bar, giving him a sort of rock and roll Jude Law look. It's hard to gauge his age in the low light. "Right enough," Luce says, turning back to Aldo. "I think he was at the gig in Ivory Black's last month. Maybe one of those freelance photographers. Did he speak to you after that gig? Try and sell you some pics?" Aldo shakes his head. "Nope," which is weird, because he was definitely taking snaps of us that night. "So what's his deal?" Ross says, raising his eyebrows. "You think maybe, could be, an A&R guy?" Luce glances over her shoulder again and sees the guy looking back at her, a little smile on his face. He nods and raises his whiskey glass in salute, but makes no move to approach their table. "He's definitely checking us out," Luce says, turning back to Aldo and Ross again. "We should go over and say hello." "Aye," Aldo says, and starts to rise from his seat. At that moment, however, the front man of Shattered Twilight brings their set to a close. "Thanks for coming out," he yells into the mic amid a prolonged rolling drum fill and a wall of muddy guitar distortion. Their half-hour of glory over, Shattered Twilight unplug guitars and unscrew cymbals, and Luce feels the familiar rush of queasy, nervous excitement that always precedes going on stage. Now it's their turn. "Listen, guys," Aldo says. "Let's do this one right. If the guy is A&R, we need to make an impression, aye?" By the time they'd finished the last song, the standing area in front of the stage had been packed with a sweaty, jumping throng of people, 6 or 7 deep. Even the goths who'd come to see Shattered Twilight had been up and getting into it. Luce knew that Public Alibi could knock out a decent set, but tonight they'd delivered a peach. They were tight, loud, and precise. Aldo had most definitely meant business. He hadn't just played the songs, he'd attacked them, owned them in a way he'd never done before, playing and singing with a confidence and control.